Hello everyone and welcome to Hats Off. I'm your host and New Year's baby, the Angelo Edwards. Man, it has been a crazy year, hasn't it guys? The world pretty much caught on fire, times were tough for everyone, and most of it wasn't even planned by me. Most of it. Like, it's kinda crazy when murder hornets happen and it barely makes the news. I worked hard on those too. But even though a lot of awful things happened, I wouldn't be me if I didn't talk about the stuff I liked about this year. From TV shows to games and beyond, let's steal whole cloth from Super Eye Patch Wolf and talk about my favorite things from 2020. Starting off with shows, let's get the big one out the way. This year, BoJack Horseman ended with its final season. BoJack Horseman was a show that I literally expected nothing from. The only reason I even watched it was because my teacher put it on one day. And after I got halfway through the first season, I was hooked. The characters felt so real, and the way the show talked about relationships, burnout, depression, and fame made you forget that this show stars a talking horse. This horse is more human than I am, but when it's not making me cry, it's making me cry laughing. I've never been able to see a show get on both sides of the spectrum like this. Honestly, this show should be talked about way more in depth, so if you want that, I recommend Johnny Tucello's videos. They're great. Also, he pretty. Castlevania Season 3 might be my favorite piece of media this year. Ever since this show came out, it's done nothing but get better every season. The action, the characters, the animation, oh my god, the animation! It's so nice to see something that looks like this that isn't anime. And it's based on a video game. We finally got a legit good video game cartoon. You follow Trevor, a vampire hunter, Sifa, a magician, and Alucard, the son of Dracula himself, as they travel together hunting monsters and slaying vampires. They have a really good relationship with each other, fighting well together but often just picking on each other. And by the time Season 3 rolls around, we have even more characters to follow. My faves being two that were introduced in Season 2, Hector and Isaac. Season 3 ramped up the craziness to insane levels, with crazy actions, revelations, and a very intense Alucard scene. You know the one. Also, my son works for this company now, so you guys better support it. Sweet Home is a Korean horror that feels like a classic Resident Evil game, cheese and all. It takes place in a world where a curse has broken out, turning people into monsters based on their desires. It kinda plays out like a standard zombie plot, but with a focus on characters self-reflecting. You get to see groups formed, characters grow, and a lot of cool effects. In fact, that's the highlight of the show for me, the monsters. They all look super cool and they have a good mix of practical effects and CGI. It really deserves a watch, so if you haven't seen it yet, watch it. And if you need more convincing, it has a character that literally has the power of God and anime on his side. Enough said. A few more shows that really stuck out to me are shows that I have videos planned for, so I'll be brief. F is for Family might be a bigger surprise for me than BoJack, and it tells a very compelling story about dysfunctional families and the cycle of abuse. Wizards is the latest in the Tales of Arcadia series, along with Troll Hunters and Three Below. The series isn't perfect, but I really think it's a great action adventure for kids, and Wizards might be my favorite of the bunch. And lastly, Black Lightning radicalized me, and there is no way I'm not dropping a video about it in February. It is way more than just another CW superhero show. But let's take a break from the shows and move on to video games I played this year. Of course, I tried the super popular ones like Among Us and Fall Guys, but I want to talk about the games that really had an impact on me. Hades quickly grew into one of my favorite games of all time. Do I even need to say anything about it? You all know. Super fun and addicting gameplay that makes you want to try everything you can, and it even makes dying fun. The story is great, the music is great, I want to date nearly every character in this game, they're all so pretty. And that music! I literally can't think of a flaw, and Hades quickly ate up my time, and probably explains why I didn't upload as much. World of Horror is a game unlike any other I've ever played. It's a roguelite horror game that changes every time you play, leading to a bunch of different and cool creepy things happening. It's structured like a cool mix of a DOS game and a Junji Ito manga. It's still in early development, but there is still a lot to love here, and hours and hours worth of content to play. Cool monsters and a great atmosphere make this game worth experiencing. So I recently got an Oculus, and besides losing myself in game after game of Beat Saber, there was one other thing that changed my world when it came to video games. And that game is Until You Fall. I have never felt more cool than I felt when playing Until You Fall. You take on the role of an undead warrior, and you fight your way through wave after wave of enemies, and it never gets boring. You have to block, dodge, and slice, and it gets intense. Had me feeling like an unstoppable killing machine, which I am, but now I am in the virtual world too. If you have a VR device, you need to play it. Next we have Samurai Jack Battle Through Time. If you guys need to know one thing about me, it's that I love Samurai Jack. It's my favorite show of all time, and I've never seen anything close that makes me feel the way it makes me feel. So when I saw that a game was coming out,
shut up and take my money.
Battle Through Time is nowhere near amazing, but for me, it was nearly everything I wanted in a Samurai Jack game. Snappy, fun action. They pulled off the style of the show quite well, and getting to see all the characters I love come back was such a treat. It was also the first game I ever streamed, and beating it with all you guys was a ton of fun. Sure, I wish it could have been longer, and please don't buy it at full price. This thing should be $30 max. But if you can catch it on a sale, and you're a fan of Samurai Jack, you won't be disappointed. Last but not least, I want to talk about Yakuza 7. I started Yakuza with Yakuza 0, and this series has managed to do the impossible. It replaced Kingdom Hearts as my favorite video game series. It has everything I love. Hot-blooded characters, spirits clashing into each other, and silly, stupid moments that come out of nowhere. It is perfection. But Yakuza 7 is different. Not only has it replaced the series' standard beat-em-up gameplay for an RPG system, but it's the first game to not star my boy Kiryu, and this has led to a very different kind of Yakuza experience. Not bad, just different. You're not Kiryu, this ex-Yakuza legend that feels like he could tank a missile to the face. You're Ichiban, an ex-Yakuza grunt turned into a homeless vagabond, and you feel it. Money is super hard to get in this game, unlike the other ones where they just practically throw it at you. And the story just feels more small, but still meaningful. I'm only about 8 hours into it so far, so I can't say much, but this is a genuinely fun story with some super cool characters, and I look forward to all the silly fun I'm going to have with them. Alright guys, before we move on to the rest of the videos, I want to go over a few updates with you. I've been growing pretty steadily this year, and now that there are so many of you guys, I want to interact with my audience more often. First of all, I'm going to be streaming a lot more on the channel, about 3 times a week. 2 of them will be video game streams, and the last one will be an art one. I'll be doing this solo, with friends, and with other YouTubers I know, so keep an eye out. Next, I want to breathe some life into my Discord server, so if you haven't joined already, make sure to do so. I'm going to be organizing game and movie nights, probably about twice a month, more or less if I like you guys. Impress me. Lastly, I'm going to try and upload a lot more this year, since I realized this could actually be a pretty good source of income for me. Not enough to live on, but enough to make a difference. Plus, I just want to get more content out for you guys. So I'm gonna try and stick to a weekly upload schedule. Probably Saturday since they seem to do well then. Also, I'm going to be reviving Look Sketchy, my speed draw series where I just ramble on. I miss it. You can expect a lot of stuff from me this year, so if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. You know you want to. Anyway, on with the video. The next thing I wanted to share with you guys was some of the manga series I started on this year. Manga is still probably my favorite medium, so whenever I get a chance to talk about it, I'm always excited to. It helps when the person I'm talking to can't move. But enough about abduction, let's talk about something almost as fun. Manga! Watakoi is something I never knew I wanted. A slice of life about nearly 30-year-olds just living their lives and trying to maintain social lives. The twist here is that every character in the manga, in addition to being a functioning member of society, are also huge nerds. Leading to the subtitle of the series, Love is Hard for an Otaku. The relationships are played in a realistic way and it's not overly fluffy or cheesy. There's hardly any will they won't they stuff because these are adults, they don't have time for that, and the characters are written to be very likable. The art is also amazing with every panel lovingly rendered, lending to the realistic feeling of the manga. Highly recommend it. Next up we have The Way of the House Husband, which I really only need to say one thing. It shows the life of an ex-yakuza making his way through life as a stay-at-home husband. Enough said, you know it's gonna be hilarious. Go buy it. I literally can't say anything about it because, like, each page is hilarious gag after gag. Definitely worth the read. Instead, let's talk about Don't Tease Me, Miss Nagatoro, which combines two things I like, tan lines and mean girls. This is definitely a niche manga. It shows the life of a boy and the girl who constantly torments him. And while it might come off mostly as bullying, there are some small sweet moments that show that she is really just trying to get the guy out of his shell. But I can see if the way that she treats him might turn you off. More mean girls for me then. Alright, how can I get through this next one and keep my credibility? Alright, Plus Size Elf is a manga about exercise and nothing else. It shows different fantasy creatures crossing into our world and falling prey to the fatty food and sugary treats we have here. The only problem is that when you get here you have to be the same weight you were when you came to the human world in order to return to the fantasy world. So we follow our human protagonist as he tutors these creatures in different fitness techniques and diets. And I genuinely just read it for the cool tips and the funny jokes, and none of you are buying this, are you? Look, just let me like what I like. 2020 was rough. I just want to look at thick elves. Let me live! Lastly, we have a more serious manga to end on. Blank Canvas is a manga that I think every creative person should read at least once. Created by Akiko Higashimura, better known as the author of Princess Jellyfish, Blank Canvas serves as a memoir of her journey to becoming a manga artist, and all of the struggles that came with it. From goofing around instead of working, to the doubt of her parents, to the fact that she didn't even know if she even loved art. Blank Canvas puts the life of creatives smack in your face, and I think everyone will relate to it. There is one page that was so funny, so heartbreaking and relatable, that I have to show it here. Here's what you need to remember. When a person is stressed and exhausted beyond all belief, when they've been stretched to the limit physically, mentally, and emotionally, then and only then can they take the first step towards achieving their dreams. This page hit me like a brick wall, it was so relatable. And the rest of the series is just as good. A very touching and relatable story that if you only read one of the things I recommended here, make sure it's that. Now, before we move on to the end, I do want to mention some YouTube channels that really impressed me this year. Firstly, we have Ordinary Sausage, whose content has made me laugh every time I watch him make a crazier and crazier sausage. Just be careful if you watch one of his videos, because if you do, you'll probably end up watching all of them. Next we have In Praise of Shadows, whose horror analysis videos are some of the best on YouTube. He breaks down entire tropes in film series, and recently he made a video detailing the history of horror comics. That might be one of my favorite videos on YouTube. Definitely give him a watch if you're into horror. Next up we have Bowl of Lentils, whose work honestly deserves a lot more love. He has made full documentaries on factions of the Japanese gaming scene that I think deserve more eyes on it. I especially love his video on Falcom, the company that essentially made action RPGs the way they are now, and grew the PC gaming market into the juggernaut it is today. He doesn't upload often, but when he does, you'd better pay attention. And lastly, to my eternal shame, I have to admit it. I got into Vtubers. I tried so hard to avoid it because I knew that if I saw just a bit, that would be it for me. Anime is getting realer every day, guys, and I don't think I'm strong enough. Just know that I may die a simp, but I lived as a man.
I do not wish to be horny anymore. I just want to be happy.
But seriously guys, VTubers are crazy talented and I love them. My favorites right now being Ina and Callie from Hololive English. Though I also have a soft spot for Pekara and Taiga Bungo. Those thighs. But they're not just streamers with an anime twist. I mean they are, but they're good at it. Some of them are amazing artists like Ina or awesome singers like Gura. And all of them are just plain good entertainers. And I can feel their energy whenever they stream. Also, technically I'm a VTuber as well, so guess I gotta release a body pillow soon. And that's most of my favorite stuff from this year. Of course, there were plenty of other things that I played, watched, read, and listened to, but I really didn't want this video to end up like an hour long. But before I go, I just want to talk about what 2020 meant for me. 2020 was a rough year for us all. It was a year full of tragedy, loneliness, and strife. And I probably would have crumbled under it all if it wasn't for YouTube. When I decided a little over a year ago to do YouTube again, I had no idea it was going to lead to so many exciting things for me. I got to interview Stuttering Craig, an internet legend and one of my biggest inspirations. I was on the Pizza Party podcast, a podcast that I've listened to for years, full of people that I've admired for years. And I managed to grow my small channel from 44 people to over 2.5k. But none of that, and I mean none of that, is as important to me than the fact that YouTube is what led me to the Black cartoon community. These guys mean the world to me. They're like a second family, and they've done nothing but made me feel welcome and be supportive. I've laughed with them, cried with them. We've raised nearly $7,000 for charity together. We collabed, we streamed, we helped each other so much, and they are the only reason I'm still doing what I'm doing. I'm awful with following through. I get distracted very easily, I get busy, I get discouraged. But being with these guys made it hard not to create. I talk to them every day and I look forward to talking to them every day. I love them in the community we built, and I'm super excited to work with them even more in the future. So, thank you to the fans who've supported me, the friends who've helped along the way, and a very special thank you to the Black cartoon community. They are some of the most talented people out there on YouTube, and if you're not subbed to them, you're doing something wrong. So hats off to them. And hats off to 2020. It was an awful year, but with them, I was able to smile through the whole thing.